Assalamu alaikum and very good morning. So that's the title for today's webinar, Defining Research Problem and Developing Theoretical Framework. Research, you start with a problem and then we will have a problem in mind and then we will define it with the support of literature available, with the support of theories, and then we will identify variables, all that. And then only we develop theoretical framework and the rest of the process continues. So today's talk is starting with from the very beginning, and then we jump one stage. So we are not doing literature review or systematic literature review talk today. We will learn how to identify and define a problem, and from problem we'll jump into research framework. But again, I'm going to have clear-cut link from research problem to research framework without doing systematic literature. This is something that I have developed to make it understandable by researchers who undertake research. I compare research with a tree. Okay, so it's a tree analogy, and a tree, whether it's going to be strong or not, it depends much on the roots of the tree. If the roots are strong and go deeper in the soil, then the tree stand is strong. Even if you have a strong wind and it storms, the tree will be still there. Okay, so and then the tree, the body, I compare it with theoretical framework. Whether the tree would be able to sustain with the storm and other environmental effects it has or not, it depends on how strong the root, that the body is. So one is the root, which is got to be very strong, and then your root and the branches of the tree I compare with underpinning theories. So later, when I'm going to talk about theoretical framework, I'm going to discuss about the theoretical framework together with underpinning theories and theories, all that. So don't worry. Now, this is from Visa 2008. He has recommended that when you identify research problem or define research problem, look at from three aspects. One is content theme, number two is knowledge type, and number three by analysis level. Okay. Visa is advising that when we write research problem or define it, we should go with content, knowledge type, and analysis level. So that's most of the time we'll tell, right? The students, knowledge type, theoretical, empirical, it should be there, and it should be having some kind of analysis from the global perspective to regional, finally coming back to your own country. This is an example given, which I'm not going to go through. This is basically following Visa's way. So by content theme, by empirical, and then you are looking at empirical again, the knowledge level, following by empirical again, and then following by knowledge type, and then you have methodological, and finally you have theoretical. So that's how the example is there, which I'm going to leave it for you, okay? So for your own way of looking at it. This is something that I have come out and proposed to the world. Many people have appreciated. This is a template that I'm proposing. You can actually plot issues into a template to highlight the research problem that you have identified. So, for example, this student is doing a study. I put the title at the top, right? Effects of human resource management factors on organizational performance of garments industry workplace safety as a moderator. So his main problem is organizational performance. That's a dependent variable. And his first issue is recruitment selection, second issue training development, third issue performance appraisal, and it goes on. Reward and benefits is the fourth issues. So sub problem 2, workplace safety is a moderator. So I put it there. Now we can see here, issue 1, issue 2, issue 3, issue 4. These all are independent variable. And main problem, organizational performance, is the dependent variable. So while I'm concluding on definition of research problem, I'm straight taking it to the framework. That's how I'm connecting to this talk. Okay. And then this student has some other industrial issues. Dissatisfaction among the labor or employees, labor strike, vandalism, employee turnover, those he has. So he has earlier academic issues here, and then later he has industrial issues together. So that makes it a strong research problem. This is another one, right? My PhD student, financial risk, business risk, and finance firm value, moderating role of financial innovation. So The main problem is farm value. Farm value is declining, not consistent in Nigeria. So what are the issues he identified? He had the credit risk, liquidity risk, operation risk, and so on. These all are each independent variables. And I put sub-problem to financial innovation, moderating variable. Okay, and then he does have practical issues, high non-performing loans, weak liquidity, high level of fraud, and all so on. So he has, he has academic issues here, and then he continues with evidence from the industry. That makes it a research gap, and that's what I said. You have literature gap and you have industrial gap. Coming together makes it a research gap, a research problem with issues. All right. All right, so I continue with the next one. I'm moving into the framework. So that's what Charles Kettering said. He said, high achievement always takes place in the framework of high risk expectation. So when you develop your research framework, make sure you have something with high expectation. You want to contribute something. You have to contribute something new. Now, before I move to theoretical framework, quickly I go through this. Categories of research are basically qualitative and quantitative, but again, you may have the mix method also, right? So research basically start with qualitative and then we validate it quantitative and that continues, okay? That continues. Quantitative research, basically we just, later I will show you in the research philosophy, we try to prove what has been proposed by qualitative study. We test what is being proposed. Qualitative study ends up with assumption and theory. And quantitative study will test hypothesis and prove that theory, validate the theory, verify that theory, nullify that theory. Those all will be done by basically quantitative studies. And then we may do triangulation and all that. Now, this is something very important in Asia. I think most students, they miss this. Research paradigm or research philosophy. When you do a PhD, is basically doctor of philosophy. It's not, it's not doctor of finance or doctor of marketing. It's basically doctor of philosophy. So philosophical underpinning must be there. So once we do theoretical framework, we will have theoretical underpinning. But unfortunately, most of the cases, we do not see the philosophical underpinning of a research. So that's what I would like to show a bit to you, okay? When you undertake research, our research will fall either one of these categories. There are four categories. Either we fall into positivism, whereby we conduct deductive approach and quantitative study, find out only one truth. We accept or reject hypothesis. Post-positivism, we find out more than one truth using quantitative study, deductive approach. Or we go more into deeper and deeper into a problem and we interpret it. That is interpretivism by using qualitative study. Or we go for constructivism. We construct hypothesis, construct a theory, develop a theory, also using qualitative study and inductive approach. I'm going to explain inductive and deductive approach later. So positivism and post-positivism, these two, basically, if we go through this philosophy, we will use deductive approach, we'll go for quantitative study. If you are going for interpretivism or constructivism, then we will follow qualitative and inductive approach, okay? So these are the approaches we have. The first one, we call it deductive approach. A deductive approach starts with theory. Then from the theory, we construct hypothesis, we collect data, and finally we accept or reject hypothesis. Okay, that's what it is. So deductive, we deduct from what we have. So we start with the theory and we end up with accepting or rejecting hypothesis. Okay, so we start from where the qualitative study ended. So this is definitely a quantitative study. We are following positivism or post-positivism, which you have to remember. Okay, so that you are landing in a beautiful garden. And then what do? You pick up the flower that you like. You won't take all the flowers. You won't like all the flowers. You pick up only those you like. So that is deductive approach. So you have a theory. You have many theories. You choose appropriate theories. And then from those theories, you pick up the variables. You choose the variables. You choose the variables. So that is deductive approach. Like you are in a garden, many flowers, you choose only those you like. Those are relevant, useful to you, related to you. That is called deductive approach, okay? 1 slide, I explained 1 hour lecture, okay? That's basically 1 hour lecture, only 2 slides. This is inductive, also 1 hour lecture, I'm going to show you 2 slides. Very easy way of explaining. You observe the phenomena, you analyze the pattern, you formulate relationship. We come up with assumptions, not always theory. Inductive research is supposed to end up with a theory, but if you come out with a theory, you will get a Nobel Prize. Not that easy, but we'll end up at least with some assumptions, okay? And those assumptions will be tested by quantitative study, by deductive approach. So that's the assumption I take, analogy I give. You are landing on this soil ground, then you are preparing the land for planting a tree. You plant a tree, you fertilize it, you water it, and finally you get the kind of flowers you wanted. Okay, so these are all the flowers that you like because those are the tree that you have planted. So that is inductive research. You start with zero, and we end up with something totally new. Okay, something that I expected. So if you are looking at harassment, an issue, and you want to undertake that research, if you follow deductive approach, you follow what are the theories available, you work with that. But if you follow inductive approach, you start from zero. You have some kind of understanding, perception of it, and then you follow collecting data, and finally you conclude, with some kind of assumptions. So deductive is whereby you have everything there. From there you choose, and then finally you make a conclusion. So that is relativism or positivism or post-positivism. You're finding out the truth. What is the reality? Okay. But inductive approach is you are interpretivism or constructivism. You are interpreting, more and more, going deeper, or you're constructing something new. Okay, so that's how it is. So a theory is a set of related statements that describe or explain phenomena in systematic way, and many other definitions are there. Basically, a theory will show relationship between two or three or more variables. That's a theory. Okay. So that's how we start. When we talk about theory, we start with ideas. And then from idea, we convert into concepts. Concept is something visible, something, ideas are something may not be, understandable, may not be measurable, it's not something visible. So ideas, from idea, when you convert something that is at least, visible, people can understand that it's something concept. And when that concept is measurable, we call it constructs. Okay, so constructs are similar to like variables. Okay, and then when we assume relationship between construct, it becomes propositions, and when propositions are proved, it becomes theory. So these are the building blocks of a theory. So you start with ideas, the concept, the construct, proposition, theory. So those of you who are with me will do quantitative study. You will do theoretical framework. You will develop theoretical framework. But if you are doing qualitative study, you will develop conceptual framework. So after ideas, concept, that's where you stop, qualitative study. And then you propose proposition, you end up your study. Okay? But in a quantitative study, you start with the theory and you end up with ideas. You give new ideas. You give new ideas, okay? So I have given you the definition of ideas, concepts, and construct and proposition theory, all that here. I don't think I have explained it already. I don't have to. Now then, once you identify the construct, the variables, then we have to operationalize it. Instrumentation, very important. If you go to my YouTube channel, recently, I think about a week before, I have uploaded a video on instrumentation. Please go through to understand more. So a construct, which is basically a variable, we have to have operational definition. Our own definition, our own research definition. A construct, a concept may have many different definitions. Different academic may provide different definition. But then I will have to accept one. The way I measure the construct in my research, that is operation definition of the term. Then we find dimension and we have few items to measure that. Function of TF, theoretical framework. Basically, it provides a general framework of the study. It identifies the variable to be measured, right? In research problem definition, remember, I propose a template whereby I put all the dependent, independent variable there. So we put it in the framework to show, okay? What is a variable? Variable is something that differs, varies at different time. Act of purchase. When you purchase something, you don't buy exact amount every day or every time. And even the price of it not always the same. Okay. So quantity is different, price is different, quality is different. So you buy the same thing from the same shop, and yet the quality is different. The price is different. So that's what we call variable. Variable, there is something not stick. something not static, something varies from time to time, okay? I've given some example here, I do not waste time there. Variables can be divided into three dichotomies, the two basically categorical, male, female, employed, unemployed. It could be discrete when you have more than two categories, or you can have continuous, okay? This is important. This slide I have to spend time, but then I'll proceed to some other slides. Dependent variable is something, your theme of your research, the main research problem is dependent variable, which is dependent on others, so dependent variable. Independent variable are the causes, the issues to the problem. Causes that contribute to the problem, that's an independent variable. And in between dependent and independent, whatever fall, we call it intervening variable. One we call moderating variable, other one we call it mediating variable. So I'm going to show you with examples and then I will explain more. And we do have also antecedents and outcome variable in recent research. We do have that also. Even though there are some people who would say antecedent and independent variable are the same. It's true most of the time, but there are cases whereby you may have antecedent variable before independent variable. An outcome variable is same as dependent variable, but there are cases whereby you can have outcome variable after dependent variable. I'm going to show you with example. Okay, this is a simple theoretical framework. Those of you who are new with me, I do have to cover everyone. Those are very new and those are also experienced one. I have to cover everyone. So this is a topic, factors affecting internet abuse at workplace. So you can see internet abuse, that is dependent variable and you have independent variable 3. So we have basically 3 hypotheses. Hypothesis 1, relationship between attitude, internet abuse, and so on. 3 hypotheses, okay? Now, can these 3 independent variable, I just like it and put it there? No. Must be supported by a theory. So these 3 variable coming from TPB, theory of planned behavior. They must be supported by theory. That's what we call underpinning theories. The theory that underpins my study. So you have philosophical underpinning before. Positivism, post-positivism, constructivism, or interpretivism. And now we have theoretical underpinning. We have theory that underpin, that support your study, okay? How a hypothesis should be written, I have given you 3 different ways of writing, all right? So you can obtain the slide and you can look at. There are many different ways of writing hypothesis. And I have written 3 hypotheses, 3 different ways for you to understand, okay? Now, these are the synonyms of independent, dependent variable. Independent variable are also known as predictor, stimulus, it's also known as antecedent, and sometimes also known as manipulated, right? And many times nowadays you see in paper exogenous variable, right? Exogenous variable. And dependent variable are known as criterion variable, or predicted one consequence variable, or outcome variable, or endogenous variable. Okay, so those terms are very common. You can see it in papers. Now, what is antecedent variable? This is the framework you have earlier, right? I've shown you this before. But you can have even antecedent variable before. This is a real PhD thesis. Huh? So these are the antecedent to each independent variable. So can I just pick the variable and put it there? No. Usefulness, ease of use, playfulness, these are all supported by theory. This is from TAM, Technology Acceptance Model. The next block also supported by theory. Peer culture, supervisor culture, social exchange theory. So you can have even antecedents, and based on that, you may have variables also. Huh? So certain research, not all research requires it. You may have antecedents. This is moderating variable. The one comes in between dependent and independent. When moderating variable is introduced, basically either it increases the effect of independent to dependent or decreases the effect of independent to dependent. That's it. Either increases or decreases. So what happened, you know, when you have taken a research area and exhaustive research is done, you cannot find anything new in terms of independent variables. What do you do? Introduce a moderator, so that this variable may increase or decrease relationship between independent and dependent. That's moderator. Okay. For moderating variable, you have certain conditions that got to be made. Barron and Kenny has mentioned those. So these are the someone that we have to be very careful of. So moderating variable is typically introduced when there is an unexpected, weak, or inconsistent relationship between criterion and predicted variable. Predictor are independent variable, criterion are dependent variable. Okay. So when you find that thousands of research have been done, but still the relationship between independent and dependent is not that strong. So introduce another variable, moderating, to strengthen the effect of independent to dependent. Okay, so that is moderating variable. So you have to fulfill that criteria. You cannot simply just put a variable and say, I want to test the moderating effect of this. Then that's not the way of doing it. You have to fulfill the prerequisites to introduce a moderating variable. Okay, so I do have some other one for you. I'll leave it. Now, mediating variable. Mediating variable also kind of intervening variable in between independent and dependent, right? But here you have to have certain rules also to follow. So basically it says the independent variable causes the mediator, which then causes the outcome. This is Sadish and Sony. But McKinnon has different ideas. He has given different criteria. He said, first of all, to be moderator, the independent to dependent, the effect must be very strong and proven. And then the independent to mediator also, the test is proven. And then only you introduce a mediator, the mediator leads to the dependent variable. So this is how McKinnon proposes, I mean Baron Kenny, right? Independent to mediator to dependent, okay? And this is what McKinnon says, right? It says independent to dependent, independent to mediator, mediator to dependent, okay? So that's how it should be taken. But earlier I saw this, is proposing this, independent to mediator to dependent. And even you can have models side theory, right? As Mangrave Egan, he said that theory has only alternative of being right or wrong, but model has something additional. Finally, the last two slides, conceptual framework. Those of you who would like to do qualitative study, definitely is going to be conceptual framework. You still remember the building blocks of a theory. You start with ideas, then concept, then construct, then proposition, then theory. So you start with ideas, then into concept. That's where you start and we end up with proposition or theory, okay? So you will have conceptual framework in that case. You may not have any theoretical support at all, okay? So these are some way of showing the conceptual framework, okay? Some examples are given. And I have also given clear-cut distinction between theoretical framework and conceptual framework. This slide actually speaks a lot. It may take even 1 hour for me to talk, but I just leave it to you. In my YouTube channel, I do have a video on this, explaining the differences between theoretical and conceptual framework. Please watch that to understand more, okay? So thank you very much for your patient hearing.